Good morning. So we're up to Siman Kuf Nun Tes Sif Ches. And there, before we go straight into the Mechaber, let's take a look at the Mishnah Berurah. He's got a little Hakdama. So it says the Mishnah Berurah in Sif Kotan Nun Aleph, Im Hichnis Yodov, says the Mishnah Berurah, Aktim Katzas Kadei Sheyuven Divrei HaSif. Let me give a little introduction so that we can understand this Sif. For who? And that is this. Tehine, Reiv HaPoiskim Oisrin Litbol Yodov Bekli b'mokum netila. Most poskim do not allow you to put your hands, dip them into a kli. Now we're not talking about dipping into a river, that's a separate story. Here we're talking about, imagine you've got a sink of water or a keli, a bucket or something, and to dip your hands into the water, does that count for Netilas Yadayim? So Reiv HaPoskim Oisrin Litbol Yodov, most poskim forbid you from putting your hands in Bekli b'mokum netila, rather than doing a proper netila, pouring onto your hands. Mishum desvir lahu, because they are of the opinion de bo'inan benetila kerch gavra. You need to actually have kerch gavra, which means that a person, the strength of a person, is pouring the water onto your hands, yourself onto your own hands or somebody else's hands. For hainu, that means she'avo hamayim al yodov, that the water goes onto your hands, mikoyach odom sheshefech aleihem, from the strength of a person who pours onto them. V'chanal usfaras hamakilim b'zeh, those who allow you to put your hands into water, into a kli, mishum desvir ludzeloik boy koyach shefech al yodov min Netilas Yadayim. For Netilas Yadayim, you don't actually need koyach gavra, rak sheyitl mikli, just that you need a kli. V'lochein tfilas b'soichai, and therefore putting your hands into the kli, choshavlu k'moi netila mimeno. It's as if, what difference if it's coming out of the kli or you're putting hands in the kli, that would work. So there's a machlokas whether or not dipping your hands into a kli suffices. So now let's take a look at the mechaber. Ches, im hichnis yodov l'toich kli shamayim. If a person put his hands into a kli of water, v'shich yodov bohem, and he sort of moves his hands around, im hakli mechuba lekarka, if that kli is connected to the ground, then it's not considered a proper netila. If, however, it's detached, it's separate from the karka, like we said in the introduction, there are those who actually allow that. And there are those who say it's no good. And therefore, in extenuating circumstances, you can be makel and rely on the matirim. And if afterwards you can do it properly, noitel b'lei bracha, you are noitel without a bracha. Okay, let's see the Mishnah Berurah. Loi also netila hainu. This is nun base. Loi also netila hainu. Afla isun tisfirlu de tefila bekli netila. Who, even though there are those that the minority opinion, who he said in Hakdama that tefila bekli is considered like a netila. Heicha shechiba akli karka gar. But if the kli is attached to the ground, then it's even worse. The near debola hachshim mitam tefila k'mo b'mikvah, because you're as if you're trying to sort of permit this like it's a form of a mikvah, of a tefila b'shuvin lek, and there's no such a concept of tefila in mayim shuvin. This is not mayim chaim. This is collected rainwater. This is collected mayim shuvin. V'ayim behalacha. Yesha imim also, but there are those who say that it's actually okay. V'lo bo'in mayim ela kashir revius, because all you need in water terms is a revius. The benatila mamish chashav ledu, and this is considered by putting your hands into the kli like a form of netila. And you don't need the koyach of a shofech for Netilas Yadayim. For yesh oimrim, va'afilu yesh b'maboim sa, that even if, so this is going nun daled, for yesh oimrim sheloi also, it doesn't work. This is the majority opinion. Va'afilu yesh b'maboim sa, even if you got 40 sa vatam, mishum deboinan koyach shofech, you need the koyach gavra, the strength of someone who's pouring the water onto your hands. Sheyitin al hayodayim dafka v'chanal. V'gam demedaminan lekiddush yadayim v'mikdash. We compare it to the kohen who would be mekadesh yadayim b'mikdash, the kaimlon the apostle litbol hayodayim b'teich hakiyah. He can't just submerge his hands into the kiyah. K'de'isa b'zvachim chaf beis, like the Gemara says in Zvachim. U'b'shas hatchag k'goyin she'ein le kli acheres, or kli zu ein yochel l'tiltila, and you can't use any other kli. Then b'diavad yochel dismech v'taz hevi b'shem rashal t'cholek al zeh. He argues v'daita degam b'shas hatchag ein lismech al zeh. The marshal is strict and says even b'shas hatchag you should not be soimech on this. T'chol ha'peiskim cholkim al zeh. V'chein mash me'agra. The nearer da afilu mi sheyetz lismech b'shas hatchag lahok k'divar shulchan aruch. even those who want to make like the Shulchan Aruch, Mikol Makom Lo Yevorach Al Netilah Zu, don't make a bracha on this Netilah, U'masas B'Shem HaGraz V'Chayot Miskimu Kain. Oid Kosvu D'Yochel Oid Oz, Al Yedei Sheyichach Yod Mappa. Even still, you should still use a mappa, like a cloth, not to touch the bread, like we'll please God discuss. Notable bracha the Shem halacha mekilim, because you don't. If you come to water later, you do it without a bracha, because maybe the halacha is taka like mekilin. And therefore you do it without a bracha. So just to summarize, what have we said? That we're talking about, you've got to clear, imagine like a bucket of water, and it's too heavy for you to pick up or whatever it is. Can you dunk your hands into the bucket? So the Hagdama says there are two opinions. The Rav Poskim say no, you need Kerch Gavra, you've got to actually pick it up, and you've got to sort of pour based on from the strength of another person. And there are those who may kill, they say no, it's actually okay. So the Mechaber says, if this bucket is mechubel akarka, it's in the ground, it's attached to the ground, then everyone says it's no good, because there it's not a keli anymore. It's however, if it's detached from the ground, then it's the machlekas, like we just said. So the b'shas atchag, you can dip your hands in, and that would suffice. And if you then come to water later, then you should do a proper netila. However, without a bracha, in case the halach is like the first opinion. Okay, says the mechaber in Siftes. Chovis sheyesh b'mayim. If you've got a barrel of water, menichal birkov, what you do is you put it on your knees for noitam menu yadayim, and then you can do netilas yadayim. V'imhoisem muta ba'aretz, if it's on the ground, v'hamayim mekalchim imena, and water is sort of spurting out of it, aisha medes, or it's standing, v'hamayim yotzim derech hanekev shebo, there's some sort of hole, v'notan yodov sham, and you just put your hands in front of the hole where the water is coming out, lo also lo netilah, that doesn't count. But if, however, there was a tap on this barrel, pirush dova soisem hanekev, Sfina belaz, benekev esir v'kibel hamayim al yodov, you open the tap and the water comes out, then choshev shapi kerch gavra, that would be counted as kerch gavra. V'tzorich lachzir v'lasir b'chol shvicha v'shvicha. So you have to open and close the tap for each pouring onto the hands. Says the Mishnah Berurah, manich al birkov, v'hainu, to write little shnei yodov ke'echod. You want to sort of pour both hands, you want to sort of put it on your lap and then tilt the barrel and pour the water over both your hands. You've got no one else to help you to sort of to hold the barrel and pour it over your hands. So you can do it yourself. You put it on your lap and then sort of just move your knees to tilt the water that it can pour out. You sort of, it's quite an art this. You move your knees around and then you can sort of just tilt the water, the barrel, that a bit of water comes out for each pouring. This works. Because every time you move your knees, the barrel sort of spills a bit and a bit of water comes out, and that's considered a good netilah, it's a good shvicha. Even if you just did it once, then that's okay. Which Mr. Shem will do. Not through another person. It's just sitting on the ground. Just tilted by itself. But there was no koyach gavra. No one tilted it. In the next sif, which we'll do in a sec, the mechaber allows it. You move the tap and then the water comes out. If it's just coming out of a hole by itself, that's not good enough. It's got to come out. If you undo the tap and the water therefore emerges, that would count. I.e., make sure you turn the tap for each pouring. Says Mishnah Berurah, pirush, i.e., every spray. Because if you just open it once, then you've got the kiluach rishon valkein. Close it, open it for each pouring. For kosa achreinim, the anot alidei kli shemesukan alidei barzel shekarin tarnig or the mashakarin kran or whatever, some sort of tap. Tzorich liska v'livterach kam pam lechol yad v'yad do dak ve'ena maspik b'kiluach rishon litzel yad karoi. Now, there are two interesting footnotes. The question, of course, is: can you use? You're a service station. Can you use a tap at a sink to wash netilas yadayim? And what about also those taps where it's not just that you can turn them on and close them, A faucet we're talking for those, yeah. But there are those who sometimes you press down and the water comes out for 5 seconds and then it goes off again. So how do you do that? So if you look at 63, I'll just do the first line and then the last few lines. How do you translate michlis mayim? Like a water barrel or something, and you've got a tap there. Look at the last few lines. You've got to turn the faucet, the tap each time. But of course it's much better to use a kli. So with a tap, but the evid you can do it, to turn it on, to turn it off each time if you've got no kli, but it's much better to use a kli properly. Now look at 64, the next page. Spiluk, I'm not exactly sure what that means, but he describes it. As you press on the tap on the faucet, it stops. In case I'm listening online. What? Siflux, yeah, what is siflux?
Like the soda water?
Yeah, you press it and then it has like 10 seconds, it comes out.
When you drink soda water.
So you press it and then it comes out for 10 seconds, yeah. So imagine those taps that you press for 10 and it comes out. That is called Koach Gavra. You don't have to keep pressing it. In other words, press it once and then just put your hands under each time and that would count. Again, you should use a kli, but the ever this would work. And you have to press it each time. Let's just do Yud quickly because it's related to the previous one. Yud im hiteh chovis meleh mayim. Now, what if you tilt the barrel and then you've got a flow of water coming out? And you walk away and you've got a flow of water because you tilted the barrel. And it's just pouring water the whole day. Also in Netilas, that works, that counts. Says the Mishnah Berurah. Even if somebody else tilted the barrel and not you, and he wasn't intending to tilt the barrel so that you could wash for your sandwich for your lunch. Nevertheless, that's a good netila. But the kavonas noisin and netel sagi, all you need is the kavona of the noisa, the guy who's actually washing his hands. You don't need the kavona of the guy who moved the barrel. Now, what about the question? What about, we said previously in Sivtes, the Koach Gavra nechshav rak hakiluach rishon levad. The Koach Gavra is only the first spray of that water. Surely we said that you need to do it for each time. You've got to tilt the barrel on each occasion every time you want to do it. So why over here you're just tilting it once? You've got a flow of water and it counts for all for every pouring of water. There you're not doing a change in the guf hamayim. It's just that you're just closing the tap, opening the tap. You're not moving the water at all. It's a barrel of water and you're just opening and closing the tap. So you've got to do that each time. And therefore when you open the tap, it's just the first bit of water that comes out. It's considered a flow. You're actually taking the whole barrel and you're moving it. Because of the tilting of the barrel, water is flowing out. It's always considered to mikoiche. Also, in other words, if you've got a big barrel and you move it and it flows out, then you can just do Netilas Yadayim the whole time. If you've got a static barrel and you're just opening and closing the tap, you've got to open and close it each time. But all of this is b'di'evet l'chatchila. You should do it properly with a kli, etc., etc. Okay.